Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle.morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker. Thanks for being back, and we've been gone for
We've been gone
3 weeks now.
I feel it.
I know.
Well, last week I was out because some
mom.
personal stuff with my mom. She's not doing well, not going to make it. And
there was a snow day.
There's a snow day.
We just decided not to. Then there was Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff, and here we are. And we both said it's just hard to jump back into it.
It is. It's. I've actually had a lot of talks with specific to the industry. First of all, agents and loan officers, title companies, and then just other, we call them normies, I guess, right? People who aren't in the industry. And I don't. It's really nice that I got to take some downtime because I rarely get that, and I took full advantage of it. But like I was telling my loan officer, like I'm like a freight train. So like once I'm going, it's like hard to stop me. But once I'm stopped, it's really hard to get going again. And so this week I've been very intentional. I've been, going to the gym like 5:15 with my son, all this stuff in the morning. And thank goodness, because yesterday like work just hit me in the face like a 2x4. Like I just had constant calls and putting out fires and fixing things and looking into information for people and all this other stuff. And I'm just really glad I had already planned to like really be intentional, because yesterday would have been really, really tough, and I feel really good. But it was taking a negative effect on my mental health, like all of these things, just because it starts to get hard to do it, to like motivate yourself, right? Because like, hey, it's the holidays, and then it's been cold, and then there's been snow, and it's been overcast, and like all these things kind of pile up.
January in Indiana with some extra snow.
Yeah.
And the sad disease is real. My kids got me a light box that you can have. They can have the sun so you don't do it. But, I'm bad in January and February, period, let alone the holiday break and everything. But
yeah.
I'm like you. If I'm going, and you can just keep me going. But the second there's nothing really pushing me to go, I slow way down, and it's hard to get ramped back up.
Get moving again.
So
Could you imagine living in Alaska?
No, any place like that. Seattle where it snows, no.
Well, Alaska, though, it'd be awesome, though, when it's light all the time.
I don't like that either. I want to go to bed.
Oh,
I don't like it when it's light
I'd
out
love it.
in the summer. It's 10:30.
But when it's dark all the time, so like,
no.
Like if you get a showing request right now, and they're like, hey, we want to go at like 5:36, and you're like, it's gonna be dark. Like it's insane.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to say prayers go out to everybody in California, but
yes.
The real estate there is going to be hurt for a long time. And I was thinking about realtors and how's that going to affect their lives. The people that don't have homes, how are they going to find homes? We already have a problem. Yeah. And the price gouging that's happening on the rentals, I've been watching Fox a lot about it, because I used to go there. I used to work in LA, going out there. That's my area. I just love to visit, and it's just sad.
So I hope everybody's insured, right?
Well, they said that they lost insurance. A lot of them did.
4
months ago.
So one of my buddies texted me this morning about everything that was going on out there, and he has relatives that live in San Francisco, and their insurance just ended, and so they had to renew, and because of everything that's going on, it went up $35,000.
What they pay is, and it's Florida too.
Mm-hmm. With the hurricanes,
what they pay is just astronomical. But looking at those pictures,
it's devastating.
They're saying the size of Manhattan or whatever. I tried to figure out how big Indianapolis was in square acreage. I didn't quite figure it out. I was driving when I thought to look it up, but. I just can't fathom, but those pictures are... I just really thought about the real estate issue there, because if they're going to rebuild there, where are they living now? Some people said they were driving, 2 hours here and there, and people are, the scams you see on, Craigslist still exists, but any of those scams of, I have a house for you, it's, $900 a month, and, send me $2,000 right up front, and we'll give it to you, and all
they take
of that.
your money.
Yeah, don't, but...
It's tough. I have a client who's... a television producer, and just relocated out there, and he could see it from his office, the Palisades fire, and then it's he told me the size of it. I can't even remember. It was something like 10,000 football fields or something, and this was last week when he said. Yeah. So it's been going on since, but I don't know. I don't know. Prayers for everybody involved in all of that, so yeah, you think you have it bad, that would be
Yeah, there's no end in sight.
Yeah.
No answers in sight right now for anybody. So
It's life-changing.
it's just,
you know,
as per
not for the
real
better.
estate and the lack of housing, that looks like something that we are going to be seeing have a problem for years and years.
Yeah, but I also saw something interesting that I got sent from a variety of different people of different links to it. One was through USA Today, one was through Zillow, and it had for 2025 the top 10 or 20 cities for real estate, and Indianapolis was second behind Buffalo. Best cities.
Indianapolis,
Mhm.
not
Well,
the metropolitan area.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. As far as
It's funny
like
how they
growth
keep
and
coming
everything
out.
like
It's
that.
Carmel, it's Fishers, it's the whole city. But we do get that a lot, and that's
Mhm.
why we get the phone calls we get from random people wanting to move to India. I always ask the question, do you if they're not coming for family and they're not coming for
Why
work,
are you coming? Yeah.
and they're just
Not in a
coming,
mean way. I'm just
no,
curious.
but yeah, I'm usually curious when they're
We don't have
coming.
an ocean, you know.
I
We don't have
know.
mountains.
When they're coming from places that I think would be great to live at, they all just randomly come here because of all the media that we get.
Yeah.
A great place to live.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means for the market. You know, we discussed at the end of the year, you know, this is going to be a really odd. Well, I don't want to say odd. Yeah, we just can't really predict it. And I usually feel pretty confident like what the year's going to look like. You know, none of the data really adds up, right? You know, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, and it's been really kind of slow, but like it's really kind of thawed out for us as a team. And about the past 10 days, I'm getting a lot of phone calls. We have a lot of stuff, you know, kind of like set up for the spring. I just don't really know what to make of all of it because like that's not the pulse I feel when I'm out and about talking to people, I guess. But behind the scenes, I'm getting phone calls and all this other stuff, and you know, I've got some data sent from Zillow and USA Today telling me that it's going to be great here. But
Well, last year was, I mean, we keep saying every year was weird, but last year was just very strange. Every month was different from the last month.
It
And
was.
I just feel like what I'm seeing is the amount of people that I have that are ready to go into spring, which maybe means March in the very,
Yeah.
6 weeks, 7 weeks. A lot of buyers just waiting for the spring, and a lot of 3 or 4 of them waiting to move here in the spring, so they got to start looking, But then some of the listings I have waiting for the spring, I don't know if all agents are hearing this. I'm waiting for the spring, but if I'm seeing what I'm seeing, I think the spring is going to become our normal. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's springtime.
I'm curious what will happen with contingencies because I see a lot of first-right contingencies right now, which I actually love, honestly.
There's nothing wrong with them if the other house is going to sell because
And there's
right
a good
now,
agent on the other side.
yeah,
right.
and the days on market we're seeing on the actives right now.
It's
I mean,
high.
Westfield's almost to 100 on the
Yeah.
average, and that's crazy. But went to the
Noblesville's over 100. It's 102, so we'll just call it 100. But
That's crazy. Yeah, mine was 89. But the thing, I went to the Northside MyBoard event, and we talked to multiple different aspects. One was Mark Fisher from IAR, and then we had Baggy there, and just hearing all the different things. But here's a couple of those stats that I just had to write down. So according to IAR, Indiana Association of Realtors in the state of Indiana, there was a 51% increase of failed sales from December 2024's numbers that failed and December 2025 failed sales.
is that a percentage of
51%.
total volume or just a total amount?
51% over the amount that failed in December of 24. There's 51% more than there were in 2024 as compared to this past December. I'm sorry, backwards. So
So
we
what
were
contributed
saying
to that?
We were saying that. We said
Yeah.
we were seeing all these back on markets. We talked to Brad Coughing about that. But yeah, what is that?
I don't know.
'Cause
It's hard to
inspections,
quantify.
I said buyers are not putting up with anything anymore, and sellers are not putting up with anymore. They're all like a stalemate. Well, if you won't do this and you won't do this, then neither one of us are going to close. Bye.
Yeah, like people
what
need
is
to
the attitude?
work together a little bit.
Yeah.
I've had some of that. We've had a couple here that we took off the market at the beginning of January to list in the spring, right? And I don't know buyers are contentious, sellers are contentious, and that's okay. It is what it is. It's what we're here for, to navigate all of that. But it's really interesting because nobody knows who has the leverage, right? Because past couple of years, sellers have had the
Right.
leverage, so buyers be
And
upset.
buyers are
but-
like, okay.
yeah, because what are they going to do,
Yeah.
right? But now it's like, where does the needle drop? And the needle is dependent on a house. It's no longer dependent on what the market is, right? Because if you look at this, it's technically a seller's market based on the numbers, but based on the pulse and the way you see price drops and things sitting.
And buyers walking, it's a
Buyer's
buyer's
market,
market.
right.
Yeah, and we said that a couple of times. My thing, I had 2 that fell apart for January and had buyers on both sides. But here's what happened in those, and that's where I say sellers are saying it's too bad, is they had been on the market for, 30 days, average, both of them. And they also had, we did not give them full list, but we weren't off by that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it came down to the seller after inspection said, we're not doing anything on both of them because you didn't give me full list price.
Yeah.
But in their head, they're still thinking, if you don't want to give me full list, but here's my thing. If you're a seller and that's your attitude, tell me right up front. Tell me you're an as-is sale. Because to me, that's a bait and switch because you told us we could do inspections. Maybe my buyer doesn't want an as-is sale.
Yeah.
So if you're not happy with the price and you want to say, forget it, I won't do any inspection items, don't tell me after we inspect.
Yeah.
Because I thought I don't know where that comes in regards to fair play, but I just think they already knew they didn't want to do anything.
I think it just more talks about like the current sentiment of the market, that is like, what are you going to do about it type thing, which, I mean, I got legally binding contracts. There's a lot I can do about it. Right. But
nobody wants to go that far.
yeah, but I mean, I called on one today. We wrote an offer on it, and like first week, and we were a little bit under list and asked for a 2-1 buy down and all this stuff. And the sellers kind of took offense to it. And like, I was like, all right, well, like, we're interested in the house. We'll be around, I called today, we're like 30 days on market now. And I was like, hey, we're still out here, like, I appreciate that they, took offense to that, but like, this is a good offer. It was a good offer when I wrote it,
And they still said no?
They're going to get back to me. That's what they're going to do. So, but, part of it is, sellers understanding what's going on, because I'm not, not out there trying to just beat people up left and right. It's, I'm trying to get a good deal, but also like make it all work for everybody to a certain extent. Because like that's the goal is to get my buyer a house, right? Or the seller to sell the house. But there's nothing worse than if it falls apart over just poor communication.
Yeah.
And lack of, trying to think of a good word for this.
Not being one up over the other.
Yeah.
Just trying not to go, I'm going to puff my shoulders out stronger than you. That's difficult. Again, at the meeting in the IAR stats, the list to sale ratio right now is 97.8%. So 98%. We always say off of the original list price. That's not what they're saying. It's off of the final
list price
of that moment. But it's showing the average is not 100. It's not 99, it's 98. So wherever you had to drop your price and you finally got your offer, that shows you finally got into market.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care about your old list price and where you came from. When you finally got to the market where a buyer said, I want to offer you something, it's 98%. So your sellers, I don't know where they're still coming up with, but I should get list price. It's gone.
Unless you're the perfect house.
Yeah.
If you're the perfect house, you're good. You're golden.
Right. But it's still an average, so they may have gotten 102. That's where we're at 98.
We sold one on New Year's Eve. I sold one that had been on the market 45 days. 3 offers, sold over list. 45 days on market.
Because one person says, I want to do it, you have to call the other 2 and say, hey, somebody gave
exactly
me an offer,
and
they all jump in.
Exactly
and I tell my buyers that all the time.
Yep.
I never know when there are going to be multiple offers, but it doesn't matter if it's 60 days on market, they can still happen.
Yep, 100%. See, so you got to thread the needle to make it work for, like, obviously my fiduciary duty is to my clients, and I'm going to take care of them. And I advise them, and, like, hey, I think this is where we get this done at, but I take advantage of as a representative of buyers, I take advantage of the knowledge of the market that I currently have. However, when I represent sellers, I tend to have more knowledge of the market than the other side, and so I know I don't have to give. And so I think like doing this podcast and stuff like that is just giving me a ton of information that suits my clients very, very well. I think you and I have talked about it a ton, how much doing this podcast really changed my ability to leverage the market for my clients, you know.
Well, and I am not a stats, numbers, anything like that. And to just know this, and this is why we thought from the very beginning we would be talking to buyers and sellers about the market and how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is 100% became a podcast for realtors. And we're hoping that all the information that we do provide is helpful for other realtors to also leverage this information and use it. If you listen to it like we're doing once a week, this pulse changes every week.
It
we
does.
see it all the time, and it's I don't know if it was before because I wasn't doing this.
Right,
Maybe
I didn't
it's
have my
always-
thumb on it as
Yeah,
as
maybe
much.
it always has been. It's
Like
just,
I could take it in like clips of like 2 months, you know what I mean? Like you could feel things, you know what I mean? But I didn't have the information to back it up, right? Or to pivot as quickly. Like we pivoted really hard when the COVID market changed, right? Both when it ramped up and when it died down. And everybody said we were months ahead of that.
Yeah, we were calling that it's going to fall apart.
So then we thought we knew stuff, and then we were trying to predict stuff, and like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
it's been hit or miss since.
Don't
But
want to be that predictor, but I don't know. It is just paying attention to it. But I know that just using these stats has made me realize that you do need to know
You do.
what you're talking about, and
not just in a broad sense either.
But we, like I highly recommend our last podcast with Brad Coughing. Everybody listen to that one because he had the pulse of what happened in 2024 and talked about what he sees in 2025.
Yep.
So that's a really good one. Go back in our podcast. There's people that we've had on that, are so, that's why we have them on.
Yeah.
They are really good at it, but Brad is very good at it. And if you have a brokerage or you're a team lead or anything, Brad always offers to come to your office.
Yeah.
Because he loves to share his stats.
That's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting to see what he says because he's looking just the donut counties. But then you have Mark Fisher doing all of Indiana. So both of them, pick their brain in your office, have them come to a meeting.
I think it will be really interesting. The way it's all thawing out.
No, it's not.
Well, okay, so not the
not in the real sense
not the
of
ground. But the way I'm just getting a lot of, because phone calls, are usually a month ahead, right? And so, and right now I have them like 3 months ahead. So like I just see a lot of it. And then I already have talked to other people that from, November on that, we've all planned for kind of like March and all this other stuff. So I think it'll be really interesting when we do the stats. So I have a lot of inventory, but like I'm starting to get negative inventory. But that could also be this week. I knew the storm was coming last week. Well, I'm doing the stats for this week over last week, but I knew 2 weeks ago that storm was coming. And so I have a listing going on the market this week, and we pushed to this week just because of the storm. And so it's really interesting. I saw stuff go on the market last week, and I'm like, what? Like, this is the biggest snow we've had in probably 4 years. It hasn't been that cold, or we haven't had inclement weather. The city's going to be shut down for 3 or 4 days. Like, you're just going to rack up a week.
Yeah, I know, days on market. You have 7 already, but nobody's been out of their house.
Yeah, and so I just wonder, like, now, obviously you have the ones where, like, you have to, right? Because, like, it's a situational thing or whatever. And even mine, technically, like, it was a corporate situation and all this stuff, and I was like, it's just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to push it a week. Like, just trust me.
The other part, though, of that is I always am thinking, are they going to be able to do what they need to do as a seller to keep everybody safe? Are you going to plow? Are you going to make sure all of your driveway, all of your sidewalks are completely clear and don't ice overnight? Yeah. So that's a huge safety issue. Not only that, are you going to want them tramps, even if they tell them to take their shoes off, not everybody will. You're going to have slush coming through your house. It doesn't hurt to wait a week just for that.
It doesn't. I will say,
the pictures look horrible.
I messed up. I'll own this. Yeah, so I did mess up there because I was like dealing with like relo and all this other stuff, and I'm pushing back. And what I did not get done was pre-snow photos. I totally just shit the bed there.
Well, and I had
I mean, it sucks, like, so we got photos and they're going to have snow on the ground, and it is what it is. And that kind of sucks.
Because then you have to go back. I do. If I have to have a snow picture because of the timing, you have to go back and retake them the second the snow's gone.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
And at our current rate, that'll be March. So, hopefully the house is gone by then. It's a good house. So,
Well, I had one because I didn't know the snow was coming, and I was going to put it.
Because you hadn't watched the news and.
Well, I really don't. I mean,
Well, here's the other problem.
I didn't know it was going to snow today.
Here's the problem. Well, I didn't either. But the problem with that snowstorm was they're like, we're going to get somewhere between 2 and 30 inches.
And I've lived here forever.
What does that mean?
And I've lived here my whole life, most of the time, without popping in and out. There's no way we're going to get 12 inches. We never do. They're always wrong.
They always let us down on it.
I know. It's like, I'm ready to go sledding. Come on, let's do it. And then it's like, no.
Oh, and even the first night, right? Like, I waited till like 9:30 at night to shovel my driveway, and I'm like, it had slowed down a little bit, and I was like, we got it, 4 inches, whatever. And I woke up and I had to shovel again 12 hours later because there's another 4 or 5 inches. Like,
yeah, well, I was planning on pictures on last Monday for the listing, and my photographer called me and said, hey, we're going to try and squeeze you in. Is it okay to do it Friday? And I'm like, sure, you can go whenever it's empty. And she said, because of the snow on Monday. And I'm like, thank God she paid attention to that. So that was my photographer. Thank you very much, Jordan. Because I wasn't looking at it.
Now you got me looking at my photographer all sideways. Wait a second. Here's the worst part. I hadn't scheduled them because I was like, I don't want to schedule photos because of the snow, not thinking preemptively. And that's 100% take full ownership of that as a professional. That's because I had a little bit of a downturn and I was not thinking proactive. I was thinking reactive, and that just rarely ever happens to me, and it did. And I can sit here and talk about my wins all the time, but I missed the mark. I just 100% did.
So this is what I do. Do you do this? You get a call in September or so, and they say they want to list in the spring, just trying to get started. What do I need to do? Come into the house. I do pictures right then.
I don't
wait till March because I don't know if it's going to, I just think it's prettier. Even in the fall, it's prettier. And I did that for one listing, drone and everything, because the fall was beautiful. They had 2 acres and everything. And then they had somebody reach out to them and want to buy it. So I, paid for pictures, and we never got there. But I just don't want to see winter pictures. I just don't.
But so for mine, I don't get that big of a lead up. I mean, I guess I'm sitting here talking about all these ones I have in March, but those are like end of October, November phone calls. And so when I think April, I think, third week of March, I'm going to have flowers.
You have a better chance than if it's like November phone call. But if I get them earlier, I'm like, we're going to do pictures right now.
Yeah, I saw Alan Williams. I respect that man so much. He's a phenomenal agent. And he posted something, and he's like, he's going to list a house this year, and he's like, we already got fall photos, and we just got snow. Like, he's got like and I'm like, man, I was like, I wish a client called me that far in advance where I could do that. And I was like, that's ingenious. Absolute credit to him.
Especially if you have a beautiful setting.
Yeah,
it
clearly it is,
fall.
right?
Yeah,
it's probably wooded.
Yeah,
and they're like, mine. Here's fall, here's like the heavy snowfall, right? Because we don't get it every year. And I was like, wow, that is that was really good, really, really smart.
I always ask my clients too, what do you have of your own? Because
I do that, especially the pool.
The pool, the sunsets, the flower beds. I want my clients to see the house in all seasons, and most of the time the sellers, if they've taken them, it was because it was a beautiful picture. Yeah. Like, give those to me as well.
Meanwhile, I'm getting ready to go after this podcast to go move a power wheel out of 6 inches of snow in my dress shoes because I got to get it out of there for photos.
I told you.
Because I was told it was a 2-person job.
Call them and ask for it to be photoshopped out. Just ask before you ruin your suit.
It's customer service. I'm going to go do it. And then I'll tell my team, I was like, guess what I did? I don't want to hear you guys complain.
Correct. Right. Lead by example.
Yeah, right. I'm a martyr over here. Anyways, all right, so I'll jump into the stats real quick. So in Fishers, I had 21 go on the market, anywhere from 218 to 2.785. I looked at that house, actually. The 2.7. No, that was 20 days on market. I apologize. I didn't mean to lie there. This is what happens when I'm not on top of my game, evidently. 17 of those are still active, so only 4 pended last week, which makes sense because it snowed a lot. But then I look at this next number, and it doesn't make sense because 24 actually pended total last week in Fishers.
I was looking at houses last week in the snowstorm, and I slid out of the neighborhood onto Allisonville Road, and thank goodness nobody was coming because the snow was so bad.
Yeah.
But they both just hit the market, and my buyers are still looking, and they wanted to see it in case it sold overnight.
Same. I looked Friday, and I looked Monday. but I didn't have to look Saturday or
But
Sunday.
you still have to show when that good house hits, like you said.
You need to go.
It's
I got
gonna
snowshoes,
disappear.
man. Yeah,
I know, boots and everything.
that's
so.
why I have a truck. My very first year, I had to show houses in the winter because turns out this is my job, so you still work. And I had like a Maxima, and
Oh,
and we did get a lot of snow, and like it was tough going in the city because they just don't plow the roads as well, right? Because there's more roads.
But
and
you have more grip because of all the potholes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Just grab and go.
But I have my truck because like I never have to worry about weather conditions, anything. I can show a house no matter what.
But the back of your truck bed, do you have to put weight back there? Because that's a problem.
No.
You don't put the snow's already in it.
No, I have a cover on it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh well, so I know. I just think the back end swings. Go ahead.
It does, but that's what 4-wheel drive's for. And usually, if it's that bad, ain't nobody out anyway, so you're just having fun. So, but so so 21 went on the market, 24 actual total pended last week, and so that's negative inventory, right? Now, how long will that happen? Clearly we just said there's going to be a bunch going on the market in the spring. I have 185 on the market in Fishers, which is a good. I mean, it's not where we want to be, but like that's a good number relative. I can remember the days of like 102. Average days on market is 43, but the median is 23. But the average days on market, if you are an active house currently, is 88, which is what we talked about before we took the break. Is like it was actually closer to 100 then, and we're like, this is going to start to impact days on market just as these pinned. Noblesville, I had 17 go on the market, anywhere from 185 to 760. 14 are still active. It's only 3 pended, but 27 pended for the whole week. So there's a negative inventory of 10. I have 131 on the active, which is kind of where Noblesville hovers a lot of the time. Average days on market is 47. Median is 48. That's the first time I've ever had the median be above the average, but that's what it is. But if you are an active house sitting on the market in Noblesville, your average days on market is 102 days.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. And this is exactly what the sellers need to understand when they go to a list, and agents go to that listing appointment. Use this information because they're going to sit there and get an offer under list in 20 days, 30 days.
100%.
That's going to happen because buyers know what's going on and the agents may know what's going on.
I'll write you one under list at 14 days. Just to see what the sellers know.
But if the agent hasn't told their seller their average days on market right now for them is 100, they're not going to understand
I actually like it when I write like 10 G's under or 15 G's under, like 14 days on market, and they're like, no, we're still new to market. And I'm like, all right, somebody understands. Yeah, so. Yeah.
All right, so in Carmel, 26 hit the market last week in the snowstorm. 9 of those pended, but a total of 22 pended. So agents were busy last week. Still, 22 pended in the snowstorm. I think that's great. Days on market for solds right now, there were 84 in the past 30 days. That's Christmas, New Year's, all of that. So a little low, but still good. The average days on market in those 30-day sales was 33, and the median was 10. That's like 23. That's kind of at Christmas time. But the active houses, there's 113 currently in Carmel, and the average days on market is 110. Median is 62. So big discrepancy on what sells. And so without diving any deeper, are those solds, the ones that are days on market 33 and 10, are we really only selling those hot houses? And the other ones are just sitting. There's 2 types of houses out there.
Turnkey or not. I think that's really good as a barometer for Carmel to be there, because that's just on the north side in particular. It's where a lot of people want to be. It's historically just sells pretty quickly and pretty well, and so for that to be at 100, then that's what the market is, right? Like it's a little bit slower than everybody thinks, but you'll still sell. You're still getting good prices, but you're probably gonna have a price reduction or 2 in there. So you just need to think about that. Unless you have the perfect house and price it right, and
you're at 10.
You're at 10, right?
So you want to pick medians. If we look at that, you're either at 10 or 62 or 33 as an average or 110. So I think very strongly sellers and agents who are looking at their properties that are 180, what's wrong? Because the good houses are still selling at 33 and 10.
So what do you think? This is a personal opinion. I'm curious what you think. The biggest thing I see is the problem with pricing right now
that is very difficult to quantify is if you're dated a little bit, right? And so we had a house that we listed like literally like right before Christmas, but we priced it very well, knowing condition and updates. And I think we had 25 showings and 12 offers in 24 hours. But like I see a lot of stuff in Carmel, in particular, but Fishers, uh, Noblesville. Yeah, I mean, kind of everywhere. I've seen it in the city, especially kind of like Washington Township area. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that when you just kind of look at price per square foot and all this other stuff, you're probably priced correctly. And then I take a buyer in there, and the worst part is like it'll be updated to 2008 standards.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll have granite countertops. It'll have that like khaki colored granite. It'll have like cherry cabinets. It'll have that like khaki colored oh goodness, like porcelain tile, and then some red paint somewhere or some orange paint. And they're like, it's updated, and it's like it's not current updated, and that really negatively impacts. And that sucks to say because it is updated and somebody spent money on it and all that other stuff. But it's when you're talking about new construction and some of these other houses that even flips have been really updated in a modern way, it comes across really dated. And buyers notice that and they are not pulling the trigger on it. And I think it's becoming a major problem with pricing. And
Well,
it's a difficult thing to throw a number at.
so my one couple that has been looking for a while, that is an issue for them because they have their down payment and they're going to buy the house at that down payment and get their mortgage and all that stuff is what they're planning. But they're not planning another $30,000 after they move in of updating it to someplace else
For 2 bathrooms.
just to get it updated.
Super expensive bathroom.
And I think the other thing that's really difficult for buyers, agents, anybody like that is, so like you listed your house, agents caught on, buyers caught on, that you listed it as it sits, the way it is.
Yeah.
It's not unusual though to show a house and they say it's too dated.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's priced because of the datedness, where they are is correct. But
that's a tough one to overcome as an agent because I can educate my buyers all day, but that's a feeling.
Well, I'm just saying, but what do you do? I mean, I think it's for me, I've always learned a little bit. I'm going to prep them ahead of time and say, hey, this house is priced for its condition.
Yeah.
You don't have the money to bring the condition where you want it. Do you still want to see it? Because
that's very accurate.
There's a point where you can afford what you can afford, but you have to afford the style that you need and not look at houses that are, oh my gosh, this is such a great price. Well, it doesn't matter if it's $400,000 under what it should be. You still can't afford it because you don't have the cash.
I have a client right now that I've been working with for a while, love him to death. We've had so many talks and educated him, just super knowledgeable at this point. And I had to have a conversation with him like 3 weeks ago because he's like, oh, well, but with the kitchen and this, I've got like 60,000. And I'm like, and he's like, at that price, I was like, no, but those are choices you're making, not that it needs. Because it wasn't even 08 updated. It's like 2012 updated, right? So it's pretty good. And I had to tell him, I was like, you have to consider that it is priced correctly and it is turnkey. You are wanting to make a choice that updates it more.
Correct.
And I can't promise you that return, first of all.
Correct. Yeah. That's the other thing. And that's all what I'm talking to.
So if I put this in, am I going to get that? I'm like, no.
Right.
No.
So those are the different style of buyer that they want to do the updates. They know they will do the updates. And for us to go, ooh, what you want to do is don't call me for about 5, 6, 7 years because you're putting way too much into it. Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion.
When I have clients who are like, can we get rid of this wall? And I'm like, first of all, like I do know that stuff, right? So like I can have that conversation. I'm just like, what are we doing right now? Because to your point, you're like clients who can do these or will do these. I know people who can do both, and they're still not the client who will end up doing it because you're going to live in a construction zone, right? Do you have the time? Do you have the finances? But more importantly, what is your life like to absorb living in a 30-day reno, whatever it may be? and that's just not for most people.
No.
And the people that it's generally for are the ones that I'm not answering questions for them. They're like, hey, they're telling me, they're like, hey, we could remove this wall and we'll be okay. And I'm like, okay, these are the people. You know?
Right. Well, and they can afford to stay someplace for that 30 days,
Correct.
not sell their house. Yeah. So there's all different kinds of buyers out there, obviously, but understanding the way houses are priced is very important, because if they're a good deal, it's because they need work.
Yes.
It's not because it's a good deal and you're going to automatically be able to, oh, well, let's just flip this and turn it back on the market. Because I guarantee you, there's 400 flippers out there that are looking at that same house and they're going to grab it first at cash. But if it's just for you and your feeling of what you need, a good deal.
And you know
is
how
going
I
to
feel
need work.
about flippers. Although
Mhm.
there are some really good flippers out there. There's this one agent, I bought 2 houses from him. Just absolutely amazing flips, and like really cares about what he's doing. And like, yes, he's making money, which I'm all for, but he's doing it the right way, putting a good product out there. There's an agent was Tooker that I think does amazing, absolutely amazing, just top shelf work. Um, but not every agent can do that. Let's just remove agents from it, like just the broader public that wants to do all these flips. But you got to put a good product out there.
Well, inspect it, please. Yeah. I can't stand it when I go into a flip and I can visualize things that are wrong, that weren't done correctly. And I know
it's all about the finish work.
So I was inside one of those houses a couple weeks ago, and I called the agent and I said, is this a flip, and did they do an inspection? And they said, yes, it's a flip. They did not do an inspection. Like, turn around my buyers. I said, I already see major issues here. And not doing an inspection when you're done to put that product out there. You are a builder, if you want to put it in a slight term. You're a builder.
There's a standard to be held.
There's things you should be doing. I mean, the city always comes in on a house being built and does permit checks. I mean, you can't just flip and throw something on the market. You really should be checking your work if you want to be a reputable flipper. But we know they're not out there.
So I have a question. I mean, you've been doing this longer than me. Do you think people know that word gets around? Because I know for a fact houses that did looked great, and then like it trickles back to me through
Correct.
Who knows how? Like somebody told somebody who told somebody, and then it somehow I'm in real estate, so somebody, like, people talk to you about real estate, like so and so bought this house and it's horrible, and like, I mean, I can pull up any house on my phone instantly, so I'll be like, and then I'm like, oh, you know, like you get a reputation. I don't even think you find out that you have a reputation.
Well,
because I don't think people would confront you unless it's a lawsuit situation, but it's not usually a lawsuit. It's a dissatisfaction usually.
Well, there are, because my son works for a wholesale property group, and I don't know, in the hundreds, how many people they have that they're working with on a daily that are going to flip those properties. So running across the same flipper, I think, would be almost impossible for us unless you are working in certain areas. But there are certain flippers and agents I know that represent those flippers that I'm not going back to. On purpose, not going back to, because, oh my gosh, it is. So there's good people who want to be just a good human.
Yeah. So it's like all of society. There's good people.
Correct. There's a good human and there's a bad human doing flipping. And I want to stay away from the bad humans because they're all money driven.
Yeah.
But we digressed. Anyway.
Fast this is over. We don't get air grievances anymore.
Westfield 31 hit the market. Only one of those pended last week. Wonder how many were new built. I didn't dive that deep. 19 total pended. And then in the past 30 days, 98 of them have sold. And 46 was the average and 27 was the median. So that's pretty average for a December. I think that's pretty good. Currently, there's 194 on the market, and 82 is the average days on market in Noblesville, and 61 median. So they're kind of where they've been. That's the same. Zionsville 6 hit the market. None of those pended, but 5 did. And in the past 30 days, 30 sold with an average day of 60 and a median of 28. And the current actives are 57 with a 96 average days on market and 53 median. So Zionsville's way up as well, almost to 100. So everybody just needs to really keep that in their mind right now. If you're working with sellers, that you need to be patient. It's not a 10-day, 30-day anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you did a good job and your seller did a good job to get them ready, And those are the ones that are going to pop, like we said. They're still going to pop that first weekend.
Yep. I agree.
Buyers know. Buyers are out there and they know what they're seeing over and over and over again. So every buyer who's in that price point is competing against each other, and they're all looking at the same time. And they've probably been looking now in today's world, maybe 10 or 15 homes that was never heard of. 2-3 years ago, we were never seeing that many. They're seeing the same ones everybody's seeing that are sitting and sitting. That one diamond in the rough that hits the market, all 30 of those buyers are like on it and ready to go because they're not. I mean, it's still to this day, people are not getting their houses ready. Just my opinion.
I mean, my one buyer, I can't tell you how many times, like, he's like, hey, if this is a good house, I'm going to write an offer on this today, right? And then we go in. It's just not what the photos represent, which is fine. I mean, it's what it just happens. But I mean, he is about as ready, willing, and able as it gets. He just wants.
Been looking too long. Ready to go.
Well, we're not seeing the houses that kind of like add up to some extent, you know, kind of like, yeah.
I think it's going to turn. I think this spring something is really going to be happening. Just another thing, real quick, what they said with the IAR stats. This is the least amount of agents we've had in 10 years in Indiana.
That's interesting.
So, you know, people aren't throwing those stats around very much, but that was spoken about. So, if you're out there, like we talked about earlier, get back at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
out there.
Middle of January. Yeah. It's time to fire up for the spring market because I think it's going to be a good year. I think it's going to be better. They all said on the panel they see it becoming a good year. You know, the one more stat I want to throw out there that was pretty interesting. The average price of homes in our 16 donut counties was $384. That's all the counties. And they were talking about income.
84.
Yeah, and all 16 donuts, and 72% of the population cannot afford that price.
Yeah, I was going to say 384 is high.
Yeah, so that was in Indiana, or spoke there too. So those are, I'm sorry. It could have been Indiana. I'm not sure, but very interesting that 72% of people are still going to struggle to purchase a home.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Inventory over the last year was up by 10%, and the number one town with the most, or city, was Marion County, and number two was Hamilton County, and the largest building permits were in Johnson and Hancock County. Hamilton was number one. So Hamilton was one again, but Johnson and Hancock were getting the most builders permits.
Johnson,
so there's
a lot down in Barkersville.
Yeah.
Hancock out by me. I assure you there's a lot of building going out.
So those are your three cities getting the largest permits. So just a few things I wanted to throw out there. But anyway, that's all I think we have to say.
Yeah. It's good to be back. If anybody has any questions or wants to be on, like we plan on having more guests this year, we want to kind of like mix it up. It just spurs thought and conversation, which is what this is all about in the first place. So feel free to reach out to us. I'm Kyle Morris of the Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
And I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group and FC Tucker. My phone number is 317-201-2601. Do you want to give your phone number?
Yeah, I'm still clocked out. Yeah, my number is 317-649-5122.
Bye.